The Galactic Senate's Grand Archive was silent at this hour, save for the soft hum of holographic displays and the occasional whisper of data crystals being sorted. Nyx Viridian sat alone among the towering shelves of records, her violet eyes fixed on the enigmatic gap in the Senate's membership database, Earth's empty seat. As junior archivist to the Senate's Historical Council, Nyx had spent countless hours cataloging the intricate dance of interstellar politics. But Earth's absence had always nagged at her consciousness like a splinter she couldn't quite reach. 1,000 worlds represented in the Senate's gleaming chambers, except for that single, conspicuous vacancy. Still obsessing over the humans, Archivist Viridian, the resonant voice of High Counselor Jakor made Nyx jump. The elderly Centaurian's crystalline form shimmered in the archive's dim light. "My apologies, Counselor. I was just reviewing some anomalous patterns." Nyx gestured to her holographic display, where centuries of data points traced Earth's peculiar behavior. 300 years of consistent trade, cultural exchange, even military assistance during crises, but absolute refusal of Senate membership. Jakor's faceted eyes studied the display. "And what has your analysis revealed?" "That's just it, sir. Earth's interactions don't follow any established diplomatic model. They maintain minimal official contact, yet their unofficial presence throughout Senate space is substantial. They've helped defend member worlds 17 times in the past century alone, but refuse any formal alliance." The High Counselor made a sound like chiming crystals, his species equivalent of a thoughtful hum. "Perhaps you should speak with Ambassador Krell. He had an interesting encounter with humans during the Rigel Crisis." Nyx's antenna twitched with interest. The Rigel Crisis wasn't in any official records she'd seen. "Sir." But Jakor had already glided away between the archive shelves, leaving Nyx with more questions than answers. She turned back to her research, only to find her display filled with an urgent alert. "Unknown VSSELSDETECTED, Outer Rim SECTORS 712. The next few hours were chaos. Reports flooded in of attacks on Senate outposts. The mysterious aggressors, dubbed the Voidborn, moved with terrifying efficiency. They ignored all attempts at communication, destroying any ship that approached. Nyx found herself requisitioned to the Senate's emergency response team, her research skills needed to analyze the attack patterns. But as she sifted through the incoming data, something caught her eye. The Voidborn weren't just attacking, they were systematically eliminating the Senate's long-range communication relays, almost as if. "They're isolating us," she whispered, pulling up a galaxy map, "cutting off each sector before moving to the next." Her revelation came too late. The Senate's mighty chambers descended into pandemonium as the Voidborn fleet appeared in the home system. Thousands of black ships, their hulls seeming to drink in the starlight. As panic spread through the Senate station, Nyx's data terminal chimed with an incoming message. No sender identification, no official channels, just 4 words that made her blood run cold. "We told you so, Earth." And that's when Nyx Viridian realized Earth's empty seat had never been about isolation or disinterest. It had been about preparation. The only question was, preparation for what? A second message appeared on her screen: "Duck." The Senate's emergency session erupted into chaos as holographic displays showed the Voidborn fleet advancing through the defense perimeter. Nyx clutched her data tablet, watching in horror as the black ships moved with impossible precision, their formation like a deadly dance choreographed by some malevolent intelligence. Supreme Chancellor Lyra Novos, a tall Aldebaranian with silvery skin that rippled with bioluminescent patterns, called for order. "Representatives of the 1,000 worlds, we must respond with unity and—" "Unity," Ambassador Thex of the Proxima colonies interrupted, his metallic exoskeleton clanking as he rose. "The Voidborn have already destroyed 3 colony worlds. While we debate, they annihilate." Nyx worked frantically at her console, correlating attack patterns with historical data. Something about the Voidborn's tactics seemed familiar, but she couldn't quite place it. Their ships moved like predators, herding their prey. "The Security Council proposes immediate military action," declared General Collies, his holographic form flickering with barely contained rage. The reptilian commander's scales had darkened to nearly black, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. Chancellor Novos raised her hands. "We must follow proper procedures. I move to establish an emergency response committee." "A committee?" General Collies's laugh was bitter. "The enemy is at our doorstep and you want to form a committee." That's when Nyx saw it. She'd been so focused on the Voidborn's attacks that she'd missed the pattern in their retreats. Every time the Senate forces mounted significant resistance, the Voidborn didn't just withdraw, they deliberately left escape routes, channels through their lines that almost seemed designed to. "They're hurting us," Nyx whispered, then louder. "Chancellor, the Voidborn aren't just attacking, they're directing our movements." All eyes turned to her, and Nyx felt her scales flush with embarrassment. She hadn't meant to speak out during a full Senate session, but the revelation was too important. "Explain, Archivist Veridian," Chancellor Novos commanded. Nyx projected her analysis onto the main display. "Look at their formation shifts. They're not trying to destroy us completely, they're pushing us towards specific sectors, cutting off alternatives. It's like they're following a predetermined plan." Ambassador Thex's cybernetic eyes whirred as he studied the data. To what end? Before Nyx could respond, new alerts flooded the chamber. The Voidborn had launched simultaneous attacks on every major Senate military installation. The coordination was perfect, devastating, and completely impossible without intimate knowledge of Senate defense protocols. "They knew exactly where to strike," General Collies growled. "This is no random invasion. They've been watching us, studying us." Nyx's data tablet chimed again. Another message from Earth. "Time to see why we stayed away. Enjoy the show." The chamber's main viewport suddenly filled with new signatures, hundreds, then thousands of ships appearing from seemingly nowhere. But these weren't Voidborn vessels. Their design was different, elegant yet lethal, and they moved with even greater precision than their dark counterparts. "Unknown fleet, identify yourself," Chancellor Novos commanded. The response came not through official channels but broadcast on all frequencies, in a deliberately casual tone that seemed designed to irritate the Senate's sense of protocol. "Earth Defense Force, finally accepting your invitation to the party. Sorry we're late, traffic was murder." The chamber erupted again, but Nyx barely noticed. She was too busy watching the tactical displays, witnessing something that should have been impossible. The Earth ships were actually outmaneuvering the Voidborn, hurting them just as they had hurted the Senate forces. It was like watching master strategists casually dismantling an amateur's game. 3 centuries, Nyx murmured, understanding finally dawning. They weren't avoiding us. They were watching, waiting, preparing. A new figure materialized in the chamber, a hologram of a human in a simple black uniform. "Actually," he said with a smile that somehow managed to be both friendly and terrifying, "we were protecting you from ourselves. But now you get to see why we stayed away, and why the Voidborn are about to have a very, very bad day." The human hologram introduced himself as Admiral Marcus Constantine, Earth Defense Force. He stood with casual confidence in the center of the Senate chamber, seemingly amused by the chaos around him. The Voidborn fleet, which had seemed unstoppable moments ago, was now being systematically dismantled by Earth's ships. "Impossible," General Collies breathed, watching the tactical displays. "Their technology, it violates half the laws of physics." "Oh, those old things," Constantine smirked. "We found some loopholes while you were all busy drafting proposals." Nyx couldn't tear her eyes away from the battle data streaming across her tablet. Earth's ships moved in ways that defied conventional space combat doctrine. They appeared and disappeared at will, their weapons ignored advanced shielding, and their formations shifted with organic fluidity that suggested some kind of collective consciousness. Chancellor Novos drew herself up to her full height, bioluminescent patterns flashing with indignation. "Admiral Constantine, the Senate demands an explanation. Why have you hidden these capabilities? Why allow the Voidborn to attack at all?" "Because, Chancellor," Constantine's expression grew serious, "you needed to see. 300 years we've watched the Senate debate and legislate while threats gathered in the darkness. The Voidborn are just the first. There are worse things coming. A new alert blared through the chamber. The Voidborn flagship had broken through Earth's containment line and was heading straight for the Senate station. Its massive form blotted out the stars, a void given shape and purpose. Evacuation protocols, Chancellor Novos began. Would take too long, Constantine interrupted. Watch and learn why humanity stayed away from your politics. He made a subtle gesture, and suddenly the space around the Voidborn flagship twisted. Nix's instruments went haywire as spacetime itself seemed to fold. The massive vessel was caught in what looked like a bubble of distorted reality. What you're seeing, Constantine explained casually, as if discussing the weather, is a localized temporal containment field. We developed it about 50 years ago, got bored watching committee meetings. The Voidborn ship struggled against its invisible prison, but even its advanced technology was useless against whatever Earth had created. Nix's research instincts kicked in, and she began documenting everything she saw. This was beyond anything in the Senate's archives. 3 centuries ago, she said, pieces clicking into place, when Earth declined Senate membership. You knew this would happen. Constantine's hologram turned to her, expression approving. Smart girl, not this specifically, but something like it. Humanity has a particular set of skills. We're really good at preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. The chamber's main screen lit up with a transmission from the Voidborn flagship. Its commander, a being of shadow and angles, spoke in a voice like grinding metal. This changes nothing. We are Legion. We are. Really bad at threat assessment, Constantine cut in. Here's the thing about humanity, we look soft because we choose to be, we play nice because the alternative. He smiled, and there was nothing friendly about it this time. Well, you're about to find out. A signal went out from Constantine's position, and suddenly the space around the Senate station came alive with new signatures. Not dozens or hundreds of ships, but thousands. An entire fleet that had been invisible until this moment. 300 years, Constantine continued, of watching, waiting, and building. While the Senate debated procedure, we created weapons that could end civilizations. While you drafted proposals, we mapped every weakness in your defenses, not to exploit them, but to protect them. We stayed away from your politics because we knew that sooner or later someone would mistake bureaucracy for weakness. The Voidborn commander's image flickered. For the first time, there was uncertainty in its voice. What are you? We're humanity, Constantine replied simply. We're what happens when you push a species that spent its entire history preparing for the worst while trying really hard not to be the worst, and you just made us take off the kid gloves. What followed was both beautiful and terrifying. Earth's fleet moved as one, their technology so advanced it appeared like magic. The Voidborn ships were systematically neutralized, their fearsome weapons useless against defenses humanity had spent centuries perfecting. Nix watched it all, understanding finally dawning. Earth's empty seat in the Senate had never been about isolation or disdain. It had been a choice, a species knowing its own nature well enough to step back, to watch and protect from the shadows rather than risk becoming what they feared. As the last Voidborn ship was contained, Constantine turned to address the Senate. Now then, he said, should we discuss the other threats you don't know about yet, or would you prefer to form a committee first? The aftermath of the Voidborn defeat left the Senate in unprecedented turmoil. Nix found herself reassigned from the archives to a newly formed Earth Relations Task Force, though she suspected the humans found the very concept amusing. The chamber that had hosted countless debates now held something far more interesting: truth. Let me be absolutely clear, Admiral Constantine's hologram addressed the assembled representatives, his casual demeanor a stark contrast to the formal atmosphere. Earth will not be taking its Senate seat, not now, not ever. Chancellor Novos's bioluminescent patterns swirled with confusion. But after this demonstration of your capabilities, surely you understand the value your perspective could bring to. Chancellor, Constantine interrupted gently, what you just saw, that was us being nice. Do you really want to see what happens when humans get involved in bureaucracy? Nix, working at her data station, pulled up historical records that suddenly made much more sense. The Arcturian trade crisis, she announced, drawing surprised looks. 2 years ago, the pirates who mysteriously disappeared after attacking refugee ships. That was you, wasn't it? Constantine's smile was answer enough. Among others, think of us as your galaxy's immune system. We don't need to be part of the body's government to protect it from infection. General Collies, who had been unusually quiet since the battle, finally spoke. How did you hide all this? Our best surveillance, our most advanced detection systems. We're exactly where we wanted them, a new voice answered. A woman materialized next to Constantine, Captain Diana Wells, her uniform bearing subtle marks that Nix suspected held significant meaning. While the Senate focused on official channels and proper procedures, we built networks that don't exist in your records. We have ships that can bend space, stations that phase through reality, and technology that makes your most advanced theories look like children's toys. But why, Ambassador Thex demanded? Why hide? Why not share these advancements? Because, Wells answered, humanity has a particular talent for turning amazing discoveries into really creative ways to break things. We learned that lesson the hard way on Earth. Out here, she gestured to the stars. The stakes are a bit higher than just one planet. Nix found herself speaking up again. You're not just watching for external threats, are you? You're watching us, all of us, making sure none of us becomes the next Voidborn. Constantine and Wells exchanged a look that spoke volumes. Smart girl, Constantine said again. Yes, because here's the thing about humanity, we know ourselves pretty well, and if we know what we could do with power like this, then you know what others might do, Nix finished. Precisely. So we stay out here in the shadows. We trade, we make friends, we help where we can. But we don't join your politics because the moment we do, we'd either have to hold back so much it would be pointless, or the galaxy would never be the same, Chancellor Novos whispered. Now you're getting it? Wells smiled. Think of Earth as your designated driver. We stay sober so the rest of you can party with your politics and procedures. When things go wrong, we step in, clean up, and fade back into the background. A junior representative raised their appendage. But what about oversight, accountability? Constantine actually laughed. To whom? The same Senate that took 6 months to approve emergency aid for the Betelgeuse colonies. The same bureaucracy that needed 3 committees to decide if the Voidborn were actually a threat. We oversee ourselves, Wells added more diplomatically. And we've gotten very, very good at it. 300 years of watching the galaxy's politics has taught us exactly why we need to stay away from them. Nix's tablet chimed with new data, reports of Earth ships quietly helping with reconstruction efforts in damaged sectors, providing advanced medical aid to affected populations, all without any formal requests or paperwork. 1 year after the Voidborn incident, Nix stood in the Senate's Grand Archive, making the final entries in what had become known as the Earth Protocols. The empty seat remained, but now it felt less like an absence and more like a promise. Recording the unrecordable? Admiral Constantine's voice made her jump. He had a habit of appearing unannounced, though this time he was physically present rather than a hologram. His weathered face held the same casual amusement she remembered. Someone has to document the truth, Nix replied, her violet eyes meeting his, even if most of it stays classified. Truth, Constantine mused, examining the holographic displays around them. Funny thing about truth, sometimes the most important ones are the ones we don't write down. The displays showed the galaxy's transformation over the past year. Earth ships had quietly helped rebuild devastated worlds, their advanced technology accelerating recovery efforts that should have taken decades. But they never stayed long enough for anyone to study their methods, never left behind technology that could be reverse-engineered. The Senate's been different since that day, Nix observed. More efficient, less bureaucratic, almost as if knowing there's someone watching makes people behave better, Constantine smiled. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy might just be our absence. A notification flashed across Nix's display, another crisis brewing in the outer rim. Before she could even process the information, Constantine's comm device chimed. He checked it with practiced casualness. "Don't worry about that one," he said. "Captain Wells is already handling it. Would you believe some species actually thought our little demonstration with the Voidborn was all we could do?" Nix felt a chill. "There's more." "Oh, Archivist," Constantine's eyes twinkled. "There's always more, but that's not what I came to discuss. We have a proposition for you." He produced a small crystal, placing it on her desk. "Humanity needs watchers among the watched, people who understand both sides, who can help us help you without having to reveal ourselves quite so dramatically every time." Nix picked up the crystal, understanding dawning. "You want me to be your liaison?" "We want you to be a bridge," Constantine corrected. "Not official, of course. Nothing about humanity's relationship with the galaxy can ever be official. But someone who knows where to look when things go wrong, who understands why we do what we do." "And what exactly do you do?" Nix asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Constantine's expression grew serious. "We guard the line between civilization and chaos. We watch the darkness between stars so others can live in the light. We stay our hand when we could rule because we know that power isn't about what you can do, it's about what you choose not to do." He gestured to the empty seat visible through the archive's window. "That seat isn't empty because Earth isn't part of the galaxy. It's empty because some parts of the galaxy need to operate on a different level. The Senate needs its procedures and debates. They're what make civilization possible. But civilization also needs its guardians." Nix looked at the crystal in her hand, then back at Constantine. "Why me?" "Because you saw it first," he smiled. "In all your research, all your questions about Earth's absence, you never once assumed we were inferior or afraid. You understood there had to be a reason. That's the kind of perspective we need." A new alert flashed across her display, more unknown ships at the edge of Senate space. Constantine glanced at it and chuckled. "Duty calls," he said, turning to leave. "Think about our offer, Archivist Veridian. The galaxy's getting more interesting by the day, and humanity could use more friends who understand why we choose to walk in shadows." As he reached the door, he paused. "Oh, and about those new ships, don't bother forming a committee. We've got it covered." Nix watched him go, then turned back to her work. The empty seat in the Senate chamber caught her eye again, and now she saw it for what it truly was, not a void, but a guardian's post. A reminder that sometimes the greatest power lies not in what you do, but in what you choose not to do. She picked up the crystal and began to write. The galaxy needed its record keepers as much as its guardians, and perhaps understanding the dance between light and shadow was the most important truth of all. In the distance, Earth ships moved unseen through the darkness between stars, keeping their eternal watch. The seat remained empty, but the galaxy had never been safer.